When we talk to people about RVing, we're often asked about work camping.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are interested in how can they live the full-time RV lifestyle or go on adventures like this and still be able to pay their bills because they're not getting a pension or some other type of fixed income like other people do.
Yeah, so in this video we're going to share some tips and information about work camping that we hope will be helpful.
I think before we get too deep into this, a good place to start is with what is work camping.
Yeah, it's basically working while camping. I guess a lot of the work camping positions are jobs that are temporary or seasonal and specifically geared to people that live or travel in an RV.
Yeah, and it probably got its start with people working off their stay in a campground. Maybe they did some dishes or something like that to pay their bills. But
yeah.
It's not unlike that today, but it's evolved quite a bit. There's a lot of different ways to work camp now.
Yeah,
there's
a lot of companies that hire work campers. It's not just campgrounds and national parks and state parks. There's all kinds of...
Yeah, Army Corps of Engineers, you can work at dams and bridges and all kinds of different types of engineered places.
Yeah, electric companies. There's companies such as Amazon that a lot of people are familiar with that hire seasonal work campers.
The beet harvest. And there's amusement parks. There's all types of resorts, places that give tours and stuff. Just little county parks, even county parks that maybe even in your area have a little space for a camp host.
Yeah, and even people that set up stands to sell pumpkins or Christmas trees or things like that will hire work campers in their RV to manage those type of operations.
Yeah, bartending, all kinds of things. We've seen people giving tours in lighthouses and around different types of amusements or activities. It's just the sky's the limit. I guess there's probably just as many work camping jobs as there are just other jobs in any given town, but a lot of these tend to be seasonal and all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just all over the country in areas that you wouldn't think might have a job there.
Yeah, even guarding gates as security in
oil
fields and things like that. All different types of companies hire work campers.
Yeah, it's just the sky's the limit. We know of people that do it at fishing camps or ski resorts and just on and on and on. We could probably do an entire video of just talking about the examples that we've heard of. But anyway, that gives you an idea. And some of the information that we share in this video is going to probably not apply to everyone, but there are a lot of different types of people in different situations watching, so we want to make sure that we're a little bit broad with the information so you can just select what applies to you and discard the rest.
Yeah. So how do you find work camping jobs? Well, one way that we have found jobs is simply by talking to friends that are doing work camping.
Yeah, that helps a lot when you can talk to people that have experience, and you've come home with some stories in great length about the jobs that people are doing, and it's really interesting when people have done it for years, gone back to a place time after time. Another way is places we've stayed. We thought, wow, this is a nice place, so we inquire within. It's just kind of ask if they have openings or what are their work camping opportunities, and this has been probably the number one way for us, has been just finding a place that we wouldn't mind doing at and inquiring about it and seeing do they have opportunities rather than read about some place and take off and go there. We actually went there and inquired while we were there, that type of thing. So that way it was something we knew we would like to be at and wouldn't mind doing.
Yeah, and of course there are online searches that you can do. There are plenty of work camping job sites. Some of them require a fee, some are free.
Yep.
So you can always utilize those.
We've done a lot of using a search engine, and that will normally, if you just put in work camping jobs, seasonal jobs, temporary jobs, all these kinds of terms that you can come up with in maybe the locations that you're interested in, you'll find sites. There's enough of them. We really don't need to get into talking about the paid sites and all that kind of stuff, because frankly, we've been on those and really didn't find them as useful as some of the other things,
some of the ones that weren't, or just from talking to people.
Yeah, and so those other things have worked out really well for us. In fact, that's the main way that we do them. So we really haven't found a real need to pay for a site, but I'm sure that a lot of people do that, and it works well for them. So that's something you can consider. And then when you do these searches, think about the reviews that you're finding. Read a lot of reviews. Try to find out if there's people, if the majority of people are saying this was the worst experience of our life, then you probably don't want to go. But if somebody just says, oh, the weather was too nice all the time, I didn't like it, then you can probably overlook that type of thing, unless you like bad weather all the time. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, but searching on your own is a good way in the search engines, but we always come back to just where would we like to go, what would we like to do, and start there, and just, you'd be surprised on how many things you can find that way, because we've found a lot that way.
Yeah.
So after you've done your search and you found a few gigs that you wouldn't mind going after, the first thing you probably want to do is put together a good resume. Now, these don't necessarily have to be extremely thorough. It just depends on the type of position that you're going after. Sometimes we've just so much as put together an overview of our skills and just kind of wrote a nice little thing out that talked about all the different types of skills and things that we could do. Of course, you kind of gear that towards the job and make sure that you're bringing out the things that relate to the task at hand. What I like to do is make a resume for either Susan and I separately, or we will put both of us into one. And a lot of times we've just done that. We've just put us both into the same skills overview or resume, and then we include a photograph of ourselves, because a lot of places want that, and they also like a photograph of your rig. So we typically put that in, and then we've never really had to mention Barkley, our dog, or anything like that, but there have been places that did require us to have shot records and all those kinds of things, up to date. So you want to keep that in mind and have that stuff on hand if they ask for it. And a lot of these places will want to make sure that your pet's not, ferocious and all these other things. So it's kind of good to have that information available. But the resume, I'll take it and I'll send it off to them attached in email in a PDF format. And you can look that up if you don't know what that is, but most people know what that is nowadays. It's basically just a document container that allows places to receive it in a safer, more palatable way, if you will. And then I'll also put that on my phone so that I can attach it to something from my phone. If I'm just doing it on the fly somewhere, I can just be ready to immediately give somebody our resume.
Yeah, so when you're looking at jobs, there's a lot of different things that you want to look at as far as the job specifics. You want to look at, if you're a couple, are they looking for couples? Because a lot of places only want couples. Some allow just a single person, or
and if it's single,
way.
They might want you to work a little bit more hours. Or something.
Yeah, so you want to look at that. You want to look at if it's just a work for site position. A lot of work camping is just you work a certain amount of hours and you get your site for it. Is it a work some and then get paid for some, or is it the site is included for free and then all your hours worked are paid? So there's a lot of different
variables. Yeah, it's
different
very
variables
important that
to
you
look
find
at.
that out.
You want to find that out right up front. Some of the searches that you do, you'll be able to specify your search as to whether you're looking for, any kind of job, or just a job that has a site, or that has a site and pay, so that you can kind of narrow the search a little bit. You want to know what the hours expected are. They usually have either a minimum or a maximum number of hours that you can work. So if you're just looking for something that's, you know, just enough hours to cover your site and you don't want to spend too much time in it, then, you know, you want a site like that they're not going to be expecting you to work 40 hours a week.
Right. We've seen some that are 40 hours a week with no pay.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of strictly a volunteer thing, and you just basically get your site all the way up to places that pay a decent salary and the hours that you want, the days that you want, and include your site.
And some, you know, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, you know, depending on what the particular job is.
So the point is to make sure you cover that thoroughly before you get someplace, and get as much of that in writing as you possibly can, like in email and stuff. Not that every place will stick to that, because sometimes they'll just say, well, we have to do what we have to do, but at least, you know, you can keep some of it in order. And maybe most people won't take you on if they say, oh, you only want to work 20 hours and we want you to work 50 or 60, then they're not going to take you anyway. So that helps to have that kind of thing put out there in writing.
So either in some type of contract or in an email. Another thing that you want to look into is, if you are a couple looking for work camping, are you going to be able to work on the same days, have the same days off? A lot of work camping positions take that into account, and they understand that work campers do want to at least have the same days off, if not the same hours, at least those same days. So that is an advantage to work camping over, say, you know, just getting some other type of temporary job.
Right, and that's been important to us.
Yeah, that's very important, because we want that time off to be able to, you know, explore the area and see things and do things. And like I said, most of these companies do understand that, and they try to work with that. But that's something that you want to make sure that, you know, is going to be possible for you at the particular job that you're looking at.
Yeah, and incidentally, this might not apply to all, but there are places that you can work camp where they will put more hours on one person than the other if you're worried about still getting assistance that you get for maybe retirement or something like that. So there are those types of things that are in place. So just ask all the questions that you can possibly think of about the compensation. Like Susan said, you know, it's really important to us that we work the same days and the same hours, and we also like those days to be pushed up against each other so that we have a block of time that's open. And what's really neat about the position that we're in is that we don't care about weekends and you know, that type of thing. In fact, we like to work through the weekends, and most places like that because that's when they're typically busy at a lot of places. And then because we don't want to be off in areas when there's a lot of people around, we like being off during the week more so that there's maybe less people at the places we want to visit. So that works out pretty well that way. And the other big thing is rig. You know?
Is the site. You're getting a site for your rig, so you want to make sure that the site you're getting is
that it's a good
site.
You just like if you're going to stay at a campground or an RV park and you want to know, does it have, you know, 30 amp, 50 amp, you know, does it have full hookups, is it long enough for your rig, is it wide enough for your rig, you know, can you get in and out of the park, those kinds of things. You're going to want to apply those towards the work camping thing too. You want to know, where am I going to be, where is my spot going to be as a work camper, and then make sure that that's something that you're willing to go through to have.
Because there are some primitive, very primitive work camping jobs that we know of where you have to have a generator or solar. They come and fill your water tank and empty your tanks for you. They have absolutely no hookups whatsoever. So, and there's going to be no other people or no other work campers around. And yeah, some people, that's what they prefer. They'd rather just be out somewhere on their own. So if that's something that you like, you know, you want to find that out. If you're going to be in a large campground or something, some will have specific areas for work campers that is kind of just all in one area. Some it's going to be just, you know, whatever site that they have available. So You definitely want to get as much information as you can about the site that you're going to be in.
Yeah, that's the point, is to make sure that you ask all the questions in advance so that there's no surprises, because there have been people who have taken off as work campers from one end of the country, went all the way to the opposite end of the country to a job that they thought was this, and that, and it turned out that no, it wasn't any of those things. In fact, a lot worse. And they were very disenchanted and had to end up leaving, and that's not fun for anybody, for anyone involved. So it's good to do your homework and make sure that you know the compensation and what's expected of you. And
yeah, another thing is to know the season. What is the time period that they want you for?
Right.
Because a lot of places are very flexible. If they know that you're going to another work camping job when you leave and you have to leave by a certain date, they can be flexible with those dates. Some are, it's very specific. If you can't stay through that date, then they don't want you. So, you know, you have to find out those things. How long, you know, what time do they want you to get there? How late do they want you to stay? How long is the assignment going to be? And is it going to interfere with, you know, other plans that you have?
Definitely. So keep all this in mind.
Another big consideration that you want to look into when you're choosing a work camping job is, what are the resources available in the area? For example, is there medical facilities close by if that's something that you need? How far is the grocery store? Are you going to have to drive 60 miles to get to a decent sized grocery store?
That's a big thing.
Yeah,
we see that a lot, where
big
60 to 100 miles away to the nearest place to get groceries. So you definitely want to make sure about that. And the medical is big for a lot of people.
A lot of people that, you know, have to have regular medical checkups if they need to have some type of facility. If they have an issue where, you know, having an urgent care within a certain range is important, that's definitely something to look into. You
know, and incidentally, there are some places that actually provide some level of medical care and stuff on staff.
We've
nurses
heard of that
and
in some of the national parks, some of the bigger
and amusement parks, and I think maybe even the Amazon thing has stuff like that. But there, you know, this is just another thing to check out. Something else that's been really big for us has been, you know, is there cellular and Wi-Fi coverage?
Yeah.
We've actually stayed at places that have none of both.
Right.
And it can really be difficult in this day and age with the things that we have going on and the stuff that we need to do and some of the business stuff that we do. We need to be connected, and so that has been a little bit of a problem at a few places, but we've found workarounds. There have been places where we've been able to go into a library and use the library, and that has helped with getting good internet connection, and we would just go in and get a free reserved study room, and we would use the Wi-Fi there and spend hours just putting all of our stuff together that we needed to do. The cellular has been a big thing, because if you can't get cellular, then you don't get text or calls in and out, and you also don't get to use a hotspot if you have a hotspot. So you know, there are boosters and things like that and all that kind of stuff, but you might even be too far for that kind of stuff to work. So you want
some
to
of those boosters do help a lot, but I would say that the cellular and Wi-Fi is probably the biggest issue that I hear other work campers discussing. So that is definitely something that you want to find out as much information as you can before you go to a spot, if that's something that's important to you. Yeah,
and I normally don't really put so much into whatever the location is saying about their Wi-Fi as I do are there other places around that can provide it to me. There have actually been places where we've paid to have a service come in and hook up because it was available in that area, and then we would just pay a fee without contract to have really good internet coming into our RV. And because a lot of the places, as you probably know if you've traveled at all, will say, yeah, we have great Wi-Fi, or we just upgraded ours, or we're going to upgrade ours by the time you're here, and that kind of stuff. And we found that it's ridiculously bad, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the park really isn't in the Wi-Fi business, and so they get fed these lines that people companies give them, and it's maybe inferior internet to begin with, and then you get 500 to 1,000 people on it, you know, and you can't even get a web page to come up. So these things are very important to us because of business needs and just other personal needs. So it's good to check that. Let's see, what else? What are some of the other things? We like post office.
Yeah, you know, laundry facilities, fuel and propane availability.
Yeah, and those are big too, because some places, you, like we were talking about with shopping, you might have to drive 50 miles or so one way to get fuel, or to get to a post office or something. And so if you need those types of things, like if you have a home business, so to say, or on the road business, you're going to need probably a post office or a means of getting packages in and out and that type of thing. So that's a big consideration to keep in mind.
Yeah, some places will allow you to get mail or packages delivered to their location, and some do not. So that is definitely something to look into.
Yeah, so keep all the resources in mind, and do your homework on this too, because they could be very important to you, and it's better to find out in advance than to get there and then find out I have no connectivity, and anything I want is 100 miles away. So.
Yeah, so research the area, not just the job.
Okay, so now we'll give some more personal tips.
Yeah, there's a tip that a lot of times companies don't advertise up front, let's say, but if you talk to people that work at the place or have worked at the place, you'll often find out about some extra perks that the job may have available. For example, they may give you credit towards food if they have a restaurant or cafe or something. They may give you a laundry allowance. They may we've heard of places that give you discounts or free admission to attractions and things in the local area, because they want you to experience those so that you can then share it with the guests that are coming to their park or wherever it is that you're working. So you can ask about those things. If they don't tell you right up front, ask the other people that work there. Are there other perks that they may not have advertised so openly?
Yeah, and sometimes you might not even find out about these until you are there, because it's just kind of like insider stuff.
Right.
Like, I mean, they might have, like the free laundry goes a long way. If you're already paying, say, $10 a week for laundry, I mean, that's going to save you $40 a month there. And then, like Susan said, with food, we've been able to save quite a bit, because on the days that we work, for example, maybe we didn't have to pay for meals that day, and just there's all kinds of different things that they can compensate you with, and even those traveling around the area to different amusements and different sites of interest and points of interest. You could save the admission on all or part of those, and so that's been. We've heard a lot of people getting that kind of thing. So you can factor those in with the compensation.
Exactly.
Another thing is it's a little bit of a touchy area, but when you get these jobs, chances are a lot of you that are full-time RVing have already had a career, or you've already had some jobs in your life, and you know how to do things. Well, sometimes you're going to be working for maybe even teenagers at some of these jobs, and when you get on them, it's going to take a little bit to kind of let them know that you didn't just wake up and you know how to use a spoon or a saw, or these types of things, or write notes and that kind of thing. So there are people that maybe that's their first job. Maybe they're working there full time, and they're in a position, for example, some places they are maybe a little bit remote, and they have to take who they can get working in management positions, because they're there all year round, whereas the work campers are probably there seasonally or part of the year during the busy season. So you're going to find that these people are going to probably be your leadership, and that can be a little bit difficult at times, just word to the wise. But you got to let a lot of this roll off, and just keep keep focused on what you're there for and what you want to do, and just just try to carry that happiness into that position too, and maybe just hold back a little bit about what you know until they get comfortable and they start to get to know you and know that you didn't just wake up, that you do in fact know how to walk and talk and do the things that they do too. So that's kind of a touchy personal thing, and I think you get what I'm talking about. And then what's the other?
And because these jobs are short-term, temporary, seasonal jobs, they're not difficult jobs. They're jobs that most people can pick up very quickly, and they may have a big turnover or a seasonal turnover. So like Bernie said, the people that are managing, so to speak, are the people that maybe live there all year and are not work campers.
Right.
So yeah, definitely keep in mind that your interpersonal communications skills at the job are going to be maybe a little different than what you're used to in your regular
life. That does happen in regular life too, at regular jobs and stuff, but this is a little bit different because of what Susan explained. And I would say a natural thing to build off of that too is to say, by way of tip, is to stay focused on what it is you're setting out to do. It can be very easy to get into one of these work camping positions and start like taking over in your mind and getting a little bit more invested and maybe attached to the place than you need to be. In other words, if you're just there 2 days a week or 4 days a week and that's becoming your life and you're losing focus on what you're setting out to do, the places that you want to go and the things that you want to do, that's going to be up to you, of course. If you find that, hey, you got someplace and you really like where you're at and you like that job and stuff, by all means dive in, do what you need to do. But if it's not really what you're there for, my advice would be to just kind of stay focused and step back and, sure, put your all into it, work really good and do yourself some honor by, working hard and being creative and doing all that, but maybe not get too stressed, about the way that the company's being run and all these kinds of things, because if you're not there to take over the whole scene, just let it go, do your thing and live your adventure.
Yeah, do your time so that you can do with the other things that you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's a little bit of work camping information to chew on. Hopefully something we've shared is of some help to you. At the very least, we hope that those who are wanting to live the full-time RV lifestyle but still have bills to pay can see that there's still a way to make a living while on the road.
Please remember to comment, share, subscribe, and check out our Wild on the Go merch.
Thanks for watching.
Camping job. No, it isn't. They said mop the can.